Hello. From time to time, I get questions that I think deserve a video response rather than a written one because they can benefit everybody. So there are some concepts in these questions that we're going to go over today. This is a mashup of questions that are from the mastermind chat that I haven't gotten to answering yet, and I just think are beneficial to everybody. For example, this first one is going to be about opportunity, cost, and risk, and we're going to analyze through this question how everybody can kind of look at risk and look at opportunity in their own lives. This comes from Nomad, and it says, I have a conundrum. I am currently a production supervisor at a cheese factory. It's done extremely well for me, but I'm bored and not interested in the work, and lately have been pretty frustrated with a number of things. Plus, working a second shift at the age of 23 has certainly taken a toll on me. I'm 31 now. So he goes on to say that he saw an internal job posting for a process lab technician, which does tests for cheese, but it's a pay cut, $3 to $4 an hour, but is also the first shift, so my home work-life balance would be better. I'd be able to spend time with my fiance, and my sleep schedule maybe wouldn't be so bad. Also, present opportunity to dive deeper into professional DMing, and my availability would be so much more accommodating to the market since I'd be available afternoons instead of only after 3 p.m. Anyway, so should I put my name in for the job or leave it be? I might be happier, but I'm afraid of the financial loss. For reference, I made $100,000 a year as a production supervisor. So we're going to take this question. That's our first question, and we're going to look at opportunity, cost, and risk. So the first thing that I think about when I read this question is that the question is already answered. If you look at how Nomad has written this response, sometimes if you just write out your response and you read it back, the answer begets what you wrote. You wrote in your actual true desire in the answer itself. So what did he write? Well, look at how he bolded the words. My availability would be so much more accommodating. My work life would be better. I'd have a chance to pursue that hobby. I could spend time with my fiance. He's writing this question in such a way that comes from all of the benefits that are going to happen. He's not writing it from like the risk versus like the opportunity. It's clear that in his mind, he sees that the opportunity is much higher to do all of these things, and the risk is like pretty minimal. There's only a couple of mentions of it. So this is absolutely, you should take the opportunity as a process lab technician, and you should take the pay cut. So let's talk about some of the concepts of like how this works in everybody's life and apply it here. So the first thing you need to look at when you're thinking about opportunity is you need to look at your age. And that's because time is something that we all have a limited amount of. And if we are going to make a career shift or a change, the younger we do that, the better. But I like, for me, that's like, if I'm below the age of 50, I still think I can take huge life-changing risks without any difficulty. So it takes about 2 to 5 years of dedicated work to like build up your expertise professionally. And you can easily reset to zero a bunch of times. And there's a concept in self-improvement that I was introduced to me by Tim Ferriss. I don't know who really originally had it, and it's called catastrophic risk. Catastrophic risk is a really cool framework. This sort of helped me think about how I view the world. So in life, if you look at something like this $3 to $4 an hour pay cut, that's a risk, right? So the risk might be you can't pay your bills, your quality of life goes down. Those are like the risks that are outlined here. The fear is that like, oh, like my quality of life might go down. I might be unhappy because I'm struggling more with finances. What a catastrophic risk is a catastrophic risk is something that if you do this, you cannot go back from it. So for example, if you go skydiving, the parachute fails to open and you die, that's a catastrophic risk, right? Less dramatically though, let's say that you change your career and you quit your job in a really bad way, and now that job is a niche enough that like nobody in that place will hire you. Like something like esports, for example, where like you make such a bad impression on TSM or something that nobody will ever hire you, right? That's like possible. It's very rare, but that's like that would be considered like something of like a minor catastrophic risk. I think even then it's not a catastrophic risk. Basically, imagine something that you could go, you can't go back on. If it sounds like I'm having a lot of trouble bringing up examples of catastrophic risks, that's because I am having that trouble. There are very few catastrophic risks in life. And if you start thinking in this framework, you start to realize that, wow, okay, I could like probably realistically bounce back from almost anything. Like, okay, I lose all my stuff. My fiance in this example leaves me. I lose my entire job. It's not like at the cheese factory. Like, well, there are other cheese factories I can work with. Are there other like places I can go from here? Like, there are so many opportunities to to bounce back from something that might be described as categorically as catastrophic risk. We tend to think it's like losing our job is catastrophic risk, but like it's not, or losing our relationship or something like we really are attached to. It's almost never the case. It's almost never the case. So for that reason, if it's not catastrophic risk, you should always prioritize growth, happiness, and QOL, right? Quality of life. Money is never a catastrophic thing. Like, even if you have zero, you can work your way back up from nothing. Like with what you know, with like you can get a job somewhere, work really hard, and like build yourself back up. There's a really great quote from Andrew Carnegie that says, take all of my factories and take all of my assets, but like leave my salespeople, leave what I know, and I'll be back up and running in like a couple of weeks, right? And I believe that too. Like, I think you could shut down my whole agency. I think you could shut down everything that I have, take my office, all my computers, everything, take all that stuff away. I'll be back at a multi-million-dollar agency inside of 6 months, like just with like what I have in my head. So you have to take that kind of confidence and kind of make leaps like this. I think that anything that you end up losing in terms of your like financial situation is going to be gained back in whatever like side hustle. Like this professional DMing thing sounds sick. There's a person in our community that does this here on the Discord, so I highly encourage this. Is awesome. So yeah, oftentimes I think it's helpful, this framework, to think in terms of catastrophic risk. Like, is something really good? Like what is it going to take for me really to bounce back from this? And like even like a 2 or 3 year decision, if you make a mistake that's like so bad that it sets you back like 2 or 3 years, like not a big deal. Like and trust me, the amount that you learn from making that level of mistake, there are like entrepreneurs and super high functioning people that would like wish they would make a mistake like that, because the growth and what they learn will be so much greater. Always in life, there is so much more to gain from the mistakes you make, as long as you're actually just executing and taking action. The only danger you have, the real risk you have, is you end up freeing up all of this time and getting a better schedule, and you don't do anything with it. So you don't use that to execute. And in that case, like, you're not like really growing forward. That's the actual risk, right? It's not financial, never financial. All right. So great question. And now we're going to move on to a YouTube question from Noctopus, who actually asked phenomenal questions. And that is, I want to do a separate video about this, probably for the main YouTube, but I wanted to answer this for so many people who are creating on YouTube or are interested in YouTube. I keep seeing so much doom and gloom about YouTube. Is there any reason to be worried about their policy changes if you just adapt your content? I could see how you do only videos on games could get demonetized, but swearing could just censor it. So here's what's happening on YouTube. So there's a relationship on YouTube between the YouTube itself and then what we call the media buyers, and then you, the content creator. Media buyers are people who are buying ads. They're people like me who have a budget from a brand and they run an agency. I have X number of dollars to spend on YouTube, either directly on influencers or on paid ads. I'm trying to get some kind of outcome. Like, I'm trying to increase the sales of X product for this brand or whatever. And I'm what's called AOR, or agency of record, for that brand. So when I make my media buys, I'm making them loosely or more or strictly, kind of just depends on the relationship, based on what the brand wants. So if brands are coming to me and saying, we feel like we feel like the ads that are being shown with our product on it are not what we represent, not the values we represent as a brand, then I'll stop media buys. And if enough of those people, or I'll change them. And if enough of those brands come to me and come to different agencies and do that, YouTube will change its algorithm to be more brand friendly. And that is what has happened. So you have to kind of imagine this as sort of a sea with thousands of living things in it, okay? Millions of living things. Each living thing is an agency. It's a conversation with a YouTube rep. It's an ad buy, $5 here, $50,000 here. And this sort of see is kind of creating the whole conversation of, okay, risk versus reward. Do we demonetize channels that are potential risks of upsetting brands, or do we allow that content for the viewing experience? And it's always worth it for YouTube to demonetize an individual channel rather than possibly lose a media buyer, because media buyers are paying millions of dollars in ads. This is what makes the world go around. If you have followed me for a while, you might remember I would periodically have these conversations with people on podcasts who would be telling me something like, oh, the world is moving towards a more the people that consider themselves brand risks, the Twitch streamers that call themselves brand risks all the time, and these people, they say, well, the world is moving towards more of a being accepting of brand risk people, and sooner or later, all these advertisers will realize that all of the people they're ostracizing by being brand friendly, and I'm here to tell you that is completely and utterly wrong. Completely wrong. The world is not moving towards being less risk phobic. The world is moving towards being much more risk phobic. The polarization, especially in the United States, of different political parties, of different religious parties, is in the ad world is causing people to be more fearful than ever of like the literal use case is like you've got somebody that has like an extreme opinion, and they see an ad and they hate it because the ad speaks to that, and now they go email everybody and they get angry, they get their community to never buy that product, right? Like, this is like the nightmare that runs through people's minds over and over again. We tend to think that we're moving towards like a more progressive world in terms of like receiving ads, but that is the opinion of like a real niche of like YouTubers and Twitch streamers who don't actually do these ad buys and don't like talk to these brands or have any interaction with them whatsoever. Like their interaction with a brand is like Starforge Systems. That's like a very Twitch centric brand, literally run by Twitch people. Like this is not where all the money is. This is not where all the attention is. The average person that is between the ages of like 24 to like 36 like doesn't want a lot of like cursing or like heavy political rhetoric or like offensive rhetoric in their ads. They just don't want to be bothered by ads. So YouTube is going to the reason why I put all that context is like, if you understand what's actually happening, you realize that like YouTube is going to continue to make these kind of changes in favor of brands, and you have to just adapt your content, as you noted, to this. Just don't curse or curse less, and cover things that are not so controversial, and understand that like the ad world is just fueled by these kind of things. It's not YouTube making a decision to punish content creators. That's such a narrow view of what's actually happening. It's you, quite literally, the person are just part of the global decision of why this is happening. You and everybody like you that consumes these ads has decided in majority that you don't want to see cursing, you don't want to see sexuality and nudity. It offends people. And so you may not be you have an individual viewpoint of like what is okay. Like for me, example, I don't care what an ad is. Like it could be full nude, it could be all the cursing. I don't care what it is. But I understand that like that view in differing levels is reflected. Like there are still ads that could offend me, and then I wouldn't buy that product just because I'm so annoyed by it, right? So that entire view kind of comes together to make these kind of policies. And I can tell you that these policies are going to get worse, not better. So you just sort of have to adapt. Like you might hate the game, but everybody's playing it. So yeah, that's where you have to be. Create less controversial content. That's it. And then we have another question while we're on content creation I can answer pretty quickly. This is another question I'm curious about is how does a link look determine if someone would click on it? So basically he's asking like, what is the psychology of link clicks? So his social link from Card ends with uwu.ai. That's abysmal. There definitely is data around what people will click with like .com, .net, .shop. Those are like really easy. Anybody will click them, but like bit.ly or like random links will definitely lower your CTR for sure, without a doubt. And you should try to use really transparent links where possible. I remember we were even having problems with T.co because people didn't understand it was from Twitter, and it looked like a really suspicious link. So it doesn't affect older demographics, but it does affect a lot of people. Yeah. And finally, I want to answer kind of a personal development question. So that's Persu asking, does anyone else struggle with self-doubt? When I feel it, I try to tell myself to meet myself where I'm at, and that's all I can do is to try to improve myself. There's nothing to be gained from having a negative attitude towards yourself. You can only do your best in the present. So it has been my experience that every single successful person that I've ever talked to, every single high-level successful person I've talked to especially, struggles with self-doubt constantly. This is never something that you beat, ever. You will always have this kind of going every single day. I think a lot of people imagine motivation and discipline as something that they'll eventually conquer. They think that, like, if I get to this state of mind or this state of being, I will eventually be at the point where I don't need to, like, tell myself to work, tell myself, like, to not doubt, tell myself that it's going to be cool. And there's a great book by Steven Pressfield, I think, that's called The War of Art. And it brings home the unfortunate realization that, like, true success and true daily, like, affirmations of things against, like, self-doubt are a never-ending process. You will be fighting that battle for the rest of your life. Every single day, even the most, like, seemingly motivated and disciplined people, like all of our idols and heroes in the self-improvement community, your Jocko Willink, your Tim Ferrisses, your, like, Chris Williamsons, like your Joe Rogans, all those guys are struggling every single day just to get out of bed. And the difference is that they just take the fight. They take the fight every single day. Now that sounds like really harrowing for somebody, but once you actually understand it and you really own that, once you really own that, that's the case, it's actually freeing in a way, because you realize that you have the individual ability, the individual decision every single day to be like, okay, this is a day where I'm going to fight again. I'm not going to let these feelings of doubt conquer me. I'm not going to let this become a problem for me. I'm actually going to fight today. And it comes down to that. It's just that simple. Like, I have this kind of constant battle with fitness classes where I do these really high intensity, hot yoga classes. And there's so many times where I just hate it. But I just tell myself at the beginning of the day, like, this is it. Like, this is the fight you take. This is what you're signing up for. And you have to make that decision in your mind that the future benefit is worth whatever it costs in the present. This is something I'm thinking about a lot. And I've had a hard time talking about self-improvement and lately, because I've been so deep into Zen Buddhism that the problem with Zen is that as soon as you talk about something, the whole value of it is lost. Like, you can have this entire concept in your mind and it's all built out, but when you try to translate it into language, it's completely lost. So the less you say, the better. So what I'll say about this is every series of ongoing present moments, from this moment to the next moment to the next moment, is just another passing time when you can act or not. Whatever's in the future, that's over there. The past is gone. It's done. You won't even remember, like, 99.9% of the details. You won't remember anything from this video in, like, 3 months unless you really specifically focus on it. What you're doing right now, how you're consuming this, what you're listening to, whatever you're doing while you're listening to this, that's your action in this present moment. So once you really realize that, you realize that if you just spend your present moments doing things to your future benefit, no matter how painful it is right now, later that will manifest, because, like, action will be done. So for example, like, if I go work out when I really don't want to, and I spend that hour in the present moment doing my best, that hour is over. And it might have sucked for that present moment in time, but the benefits of that will come down the line. It's the same as if I'm working really hard, I really want to do something creative, and I want to do that instead of play a video game. That hour is going to pass regardless. But me doing that thing in that present moment right then will have those benefits later that I don't even remember. So as much as you can fill your present moments with the act of doing something that is benefiting you, which could just be like sitting around being happy, like whatever, right? versus the amount of present moments that we spend in negativity. This is a Mark Twain quote, right? It's many bad things have befallen me in this life, a couple of which have actually happened, right? I think that's the quote or something like that. Meaning that the vast majority of things that you concern yourself with in the present moment are not even really there when you actually look at the present moment. The present moment, like you're just sitting on your bed, you're sitting in an office somewhere. That's what you're doing, right? That's like the pain of that negativity or self-doubt or whatever it is not real. If you just like center into your present moment, it's not really there. It's something that you've made in your mind. When the Buddhists talk about illusion, that's what they're referring to, right? You're attached to an idea in your mind that isn't actually there. Some worry, some phantom situation that doesn't even exist, right? Like my girlfriend could do this, or my job could do this, or I could lose this, or right? It's not happening. It's not real. You have no idea if it's going to be real. So as much as you can center your mind in the exact present moment, and you can just be of it instead of in it, you'll eliminate that self-doubt because you realize, well, okay, the only time I have to actually act at all is right now. So I can't work later. That doesn't exist. I can't work in the past because I've already done those things, and I can't go back to the past. I can work right now. And I mean like right now. Like you might be eating at a restaurant. Okay, you can work right now. And now. But that's it, right? Like you can't ever work later because you can't be certain. You can't even be certain you'll be alive later. Like maybe this is your last 10 minutes on Earth, right? So now is the only time you have. And when you realize that, you put that in your perspective, all that in perspective, I want you to really think about it, because you'll realize like, oh shit, a lot of the stuff that I worry about is probably not only not productive, but also like totally pointless. It just doesn't matter. I just have this moment now to do the best I can. So stuff like self-doubt evaporates. I don't think you should challenge. I'll leave you with this. I don't think you should challenge the phantoms of like self-doubt, the colossus that is stuff like feeling bad about yourself or fear or those sort of things. They're too great of an enemy. I think you should just check out of the equation entirely, right? Like instead of seeking to like overcome self-doubt or overcome things like lack of discipline or motivation or procrastination, you should just check out of the process by realizing that all of that is inherently illusory. It just exists in this space that you've created in your mind. And the only moment that you have is your series of progressive now moments to do something. And if you realize that, you don't have time to worry, because all you have time is to do that one thing right now. I could worry, or I could work. I could be in a negative attitude and be really angry, or I could like do this. Either way, like I'm using that time. The time is going. So like, don't you want to just use it for something that makes you happy? Right? Something to think about. If you like this, leave a comment. It's a kind of like a mash podge of things, and maybe we'll keep doing this if people like them. Thanks, everybody. Bye.